Let's talk about books where the setting is more interesting than the plot. So recently, I read a lot of books last year. I read over 100. And a lot of those books, mid. Kind of mid. But in doing so, I discovered a few books where I much preferred the world, the setting of the book, than the actual plot of the book itself. And I would have rather had the world, the setting be explored more, just not with the plot that I was given around it. The world seemed far more interesting than the plot. Some of these are set in the real world, some of them are set in a fantasy and or, not real world, maybe not fantasy necessarily, but a not real world. Now you can get these books in the description down below. I'm going to put the links to them so you can pick them up or get them from your local library. So, the first book I want to talk about is The Catastrophist. The Catastrophist is set in Congo, basically in the wake of Patrice Lumumba's assassination. And, the setting of Congo around Lumumba's assassination, the revolution that led to him taking power, and the counter-revolution, that kind of that assassinated him and took him out of power. That is so much more interesting than the story we got about basically some writer he's got an exotic girlfriend. She's basically described as like this exotic girlfriend he craves her, and he's kind of like knows people involved with Lumumba's side and also like the CIA and the French and whatnot. I'll be honest, man. The only interesting part of this book was the backdrop being set in Congo during this tumultuous time. Honestly, I would probably rather just go read a book about what was happening in Congo at the time, because that would give me more about the world and the setting we were in. So much more interesting than, I'm going to say it, like generic white guy with his, hot exotic girlfriend and, there's like other people here doing stuff in the background, but hey, look at me, I'm just like I'm a writer and my hot girlfriend's over here. She's like a revolutionary or something, but she's kind of hot. And it's just like, you could have written such a fantastic book just about Congo, about Patrice Lumumba and the counter-revolution against him. What a great way to introduce people to Lumumba, to introduce people to the workings of foreign affairs from many global northern countries and how it punishes the global south. But no, it's some white guy and his exotic girlfriend. If we go to the more sci-fi realm, let's talk about Tom Baxter's The Massacre of Mankind. I'll be honest, I did not like this book at all. It was boring, it was slow, it just wasn't for me. Just go and read The War of the Worlds, because this is meant to be a sequel to The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. It's the plot is just there. It's all over the place. It's just like, it's, when they make a movie and it finishes and then it does really well at the box office and they're like, yo, let's make a sequel. And this is what it felt like. So, the world is very cool, and that can probably be partly attributed to H.G. Wells as well. But the world where, they've got this alien technology, the alien technology helps inform kind of things that they do with the world. It informs the technology. So it's still like I believe it's after World War I. It's like the 1920s, 30s this book is set. And it is like that, but it's informed by the alien technology they were able to kind of reverse engineer a little bit. So like the ships are different. There's like different like usage for electricity, that kind of stuff. Very cool. And kind of the balance of war and the nation's relations, very different. That's really interesting, really cool. The plot of them trying to stop more but different aliens, and then the other aliens are like, yo, what's up, dude? Those other aliens, they're even worse than us. And these guys are like, damn, that sucks, bro. And it was kind of like, let me just show me more of like 1920s England when they had alien technology, or show me more about US-British relations in regards to the alien stuff. Wow, that cool. The kind of, trying to stop different aliens doing what the other aliens did. Not as interesting, really. And then like there were like different relationships compared to War of the Worlds. You know, War of the Worlds, very different to the Tom Cruise movie. You know, it's set in London, so that's kind of the big difference there. No, but it just felt like if they took that Tom Cruise movie and they made like a mid-sequel to it, and let's be honest, War of the Worlds is already pretty mid, both the book and the movie, and you made another mid sequel, but the world you built was quite cool. Just the story was not really interesting or important. But the world you built, very cool. And our third book, another historical narrative, All the Light We Cannot See. I'll be honest, I am a hater of this book. Why? Because half the book is kind of like trying to make you sympathize with a Nazi. And that's weird. That's so weird. I don't like it. And I get it. People will be like, well, you know, he was indoctrinated into it, guys. I'm just like, I'm sorry, mate. It's Nazi's a Nazi. Just kind of the world we live in. Nazi's a Nazi, not gonna lie. Just yikes. The other half of the narrative is actually quite interesting. The blind girl in Paris trying to survive World War II. You know, the attacks. I think she's in Paris, actually. I'm not 100% sure. But trying to survive the attacks. Her and her father fleeing. You know, that really actually interesting. You know, a girl who's blind is already facing challenges, already facing discrimination, and then you add the layers of the war onto that, and her trying to get around, trying to understand where she is. That really interesting plot. Very interesting. World War II, you can also tell really interesting stories. You know, The Book Thief is proof that World War II, you can tell a really compelling human story during that setting. You know, you didn't need to try and make me sympathize with the Nazi. I didn't like that character at all through the whole book because he was a Nazi, and even then he wasn't an interesting character. The blind girl was an interesting character. There was something about her that made her compelling, and all the people in her life were really interesting. The Nazi wasn't, okay? And I might get some hate for that analysis, because, you know, obviously there's probably an analysis you can take, you know, it's about the indoctrination and stuff like that. But you know who did that really well? You know, like the indoctrination part? The Book Thief. The Book Thief actually, like, really looked into it, probably showed, like, the proper, like, heinous nature of the, like, Hitler Youth indoctrination. I know they, like, tried to do a little bit of that in All the Light We Cannot See, but you weren't made to try and sympathize with any of the Hitler Youth in The Book Thief, and anyone who you did sympathize with who was part of the Hitler Youth were people who were actively questioning it, being like, hey, this kind of sucks, dude. But All the Light We Cannot See, yikes. And again, World War II, you can tell compelling stories. You can tell a very human story. There's proof of that. There are countless books that do that. And so the actual setting, and even, you know, the setting, I just, you know, being in France that is occupied, being in, you know, other parts of Europe that are occupied by the Nazis, under war, you know, you can tell a really great story about people trying to live through war. Yeah, very, very interesting. You can tell that, but it's just half of your narrative sucks. And this was a really negative video, but it's just true. And if you maybe took out that other half of the narrative and like read, even if you took the book has half the length and it's just about the blind girl, that's fine. This probably wouldn't have been included in this video, but the whole with the Nazi kid, yeesh. So there's a couple of examples of books that I've read where I really thought the setting was far more interesting than the plot that was being told. The setting you can tell so much more with, or I would probably just go off and read about the setting in two cases that were, you know, based on real life. It's just probably more compelling to actually read about the times they were set in than the actual plot you were given. But let me know in the comments down below if you have any other examples. I tried not to include too much fantasy because, to be honest, I've only really read bangers apart from like the Eragon books. And even with those, the setting is actually quite interesting, at least when it's properly explored. I think like Murtagh is the first time you're really exploring the world. I know actually the first 4 books, it's kind of like he goes here to here to here to here. It's in a triangle, and then Murtagh, Paolini actually find was like, hey, let me just explore further, huh? So, and also I already made so many videos about Eragon, and it's actually nice to actually look at like more grounded examples. But let me know down below. They can be fantasy as well. They can be, you know, more real life. They can be sci-fi. They can basically, they can be genre or just literary fiction stuff, whatever. Just let me know in the comments down below. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts. And let me know if I was too negative about All the Light We Cannot See, because I remember selling a ton of those books when I worked as a bookseller, and I was like, oh, this is probably a really great book. And then I read it, and I was like, really? This is the book people kept buying that Christmas when I was working at the Waterstones? Really? So, thank you for watching. I want to shout out to my wonderful members. Members get extra perks, they get videos, they get to be part of the book club that I've launched. So if you want to be part of a book club, become a member. It's £2 a month. They get emojis, they get badges, all the works. If you're interested, hit the join button on my channel or below, or also in the description. I will link to it. You can also find the links to the books I've mentioned down below, even though this was kind of a negative video about the books, but I'm still going to put the links there if you're interested. Thank you for watching, and I hope you read a great book today.